Students, this is Mr. Doucette, and as I promised, I'm going to do a short video here on how to do markups and markdowns from chapter 8. And so a couple things, bear with me if I make some mistakes because I only get one take at these videos. But basically with markups and markdowns, obviously in business, you're going to be buying something at a certain cost, and your goal is to mark it up in order to make money. And so sometimes you mark it up by $1, sometimes you mark it up by percent. Sometimes you want to buy something and be able to mark it up 25%, or else you won't want to even do it. And so you have to decide what percentages that you need in order to pay your bills and to make money and all the rest. And so that's what these problems are all based on, is being able to do mark up your products that you buy. And so basically, if you remember, and I'm going to draw it from the screen, there was what we called a portion formula. And so we went over this in chapter 6. Basically, it kind of looked like this right here. You had your base, which is represented by B, you had your rate, and then you had your portion at the top here. And this little formula, I gave it to you. It's not in the book, it's in another book. I really like because basically you can do all of the problems using these types of formulas, and they're very similar. And so in this case, basically the horizontal line means divide, and then the vertical line here in the middle means multiply. And so you can pretty much solve any problem this way, including markup problems. So some of the problems in your book, especially this chapter, kind of do the same thing. Instead of base, you have cost, and instead of portion, you have markup amount. So I call that markup, let's see, MAU, markup amount. And then you have your rate. So same thing, divide here in the middle, and then multiply across horizontally. And so all of your problems can kind of be solved using this formula, at least initially. Quick problem, let's just say you have something that costs you, $100, and you want to mark it up by 25%, so 25. And so you would just do the math, 100 times 0.25, so $25 markup, obviously. So that would be the simple way to use this formula, and you can solve multiple problems using that formula. And I already went over that, and I'm going to kind of change it a little bit now to what your book deals with markups and markdowns. And there's two formulas we're going to look at. Number one is what we call cost plus one, and that is trying to find your selling price, your markup amount, all that. So basically that formula is very, very similar. It's the same thing, and it's going to look like this. So you're going to have just going to do cost, and then you're going to do it's called cost plus one. So you're going to do 1 plus the rate, and then that's going to give you your selling price. And so a lot of your problems will say the markup's based on cost, the markup's based on cost, the markup's based on cost. And this is the formula that you will use every time. You will use this formula, and you'll be able to solve all of your problems based on markups based on cost. And I'll come back in a minute and talk about the markups based on selling price. So I'm just going to kind of look at a couple of the problems from your book. So jumping ahead to 8.2, example number 4, and it's the try it exercise number 4. So it's on page 233. It says light source buys lamps for $45 and sells them for $63. What is the amount of the markup and the percent markup based on cost? And so there's two ways you can solve the problem. So I'm going to just go ahead and first I'm going to use the markup formula just because it's the simple one. So it says they buy them for $45, so my cost is $45. And then it says, and my sales price for them is $63. So remember the formula had the sales price. And so I'm basically just going to divide these two numbers. So 63 divided by 45 equals 1.4. That's the answer, 1.4. And because this is markup based on cost plus 1, I'm going to minus it from 1. So I'm going to 1 minus 1.4 equals 0.4. So that is your markup percent. It's 40% markup. And that's what the question is asking. What is the markup amount and what is the markup percent? So the markup amount, obviously the easy way to do that is just take the 63 and minus the 45. And that'll give you your markup amount. So basically you can solve all of these problems 8.1 through 8.5 sections using this same formula that I just showed you right here. So Moving on to example number 5 in 8-3, this one says Superior Appliance buys toasters for $38. If a 65% markup based on cost is desired, what should be the selling price of each toaster? So again, I'm just going to use my formula, and I'm going to put the cost was $38. That's what they bought them for. And then it's 1, remember it's cost plus 1, so it's going to be 65, so 0.65, 1 plus 0.65, and that's going to give me my selling price. So $38 times 1.65 equals $62.70. So that's going to be my sales price for each of the toasters. So again, every problem in 8.1 to 8.5 you can solve using this particular formula. All right, I'm going to move on to one more problem here. This is 8-4. So 8-4, I'm just going to use the same formula. And that says when selling price and percent markup are based on cost are known. So this one says General Electric sells automatic coffee makers to distributors for $39. If a 30% markup based on cost is used, how much did it cost to manufacture the coffee maker? So again, this is the selling price I have, which is $39. I'm trying to find this one here. And if it's a 30% markup, so it's 1 plus 30 is the rate. So I'm just going to take 39, divide it by 1.30 equals 30. So I had to buy each of them for $30 each in order to get the 30% markup and be able to sell them for $39. So like I said, every problem from 8.2 to 8.5 or 8.4 in this case, you should be able to solve with this formula that I just gave you. Okay, sometimes you want to, you don't really know what the item costs that you bought. Maybe you bought a big bulk of them, or you bought a bunch of stuff over a period of time, but you know that ultimately, and they all cost a different amount when you bought them. So you ultimately know, hey, but I want to have a 25% discount, or excuse me, a 20% markup on everything that I do, but I don't remember what it costs. I just know what I want to sell it for. And I can only sell it for, let's just say you can only sell them for $125, but you still want to be able to, mark them up 20%. So you want to find out, well, how much then do I need to buy them for? How much should they cost in order for me to make that percentage and to be able to sell them for that amount? Or like I said, sometimes you don't know what it costs to buy a bunch of them because you bought them at different times and there was a bulk amount that you bought. So you have no idea what they all cost. It was a variable price for all of them, but you know what you can sell it for and you know what kind of percentage that you need. And so this is what we call markup based on selling price. So if I can only sell it for $125, but I want to be able to sell it, or excuse me, I want to be able to mark it up 25%, then that allows me to know how much I need to buy them for in order to make those kinds of profits. So this is when you would use the formula for markups based on selling price, not cost, because I don't know what the cost was. So that formula is very similar, but based on all of these problems, you're either going to use one or two formulas based on which question they're asking. If they're asking markup based on cost, then you're going to use this formula, 1 plus rate. This is based on cost. That's what we've already been looking at. And then if you want to do based on markup, based on sales price, it's going to look like this. So this is based on selling price. And so all of the problems in this chapter that deal with markups, you're going to be using one of these two formulas to get the solution that you need. And so we've already been looking at based on cost. We call it cost plus 1. If you look at the first formula, cost plus 1 plus the rate, that's cost plus 1. The other one is based on selling price, is basically selling price 1 minus the rate, and that'll give you the cost. So I'll show you a couple of these problems real quick using that formula, just moving on through your book. So if you come to 8.6, there's a question there. It says, Grand Prix Menswear buys suits for $169 from the manufacturer. If a 35% markup based on selling price is the objective, what should the selling price of the suit be? So we don't know what the selling price is. This quadrant here we're trying to find, we know it's 1 minus the rate, right? So what's the rate? The rate is 35%. So 1 minus the rate equals what? 65%. So we'll just put that there. And then we do know the cost. So in this case, the cost is $169. So in this case, we already did the math here. So we just need to figure out what the selling price is. So sorry, hold on. So the selling price, excuse me, the cost is $169. And I'm going to divide that by 0.65 because that's the 1 minus the rate. It's going to come out to $260. So the answer to that problem is Grand Prix menswear buy suits for $169. If they want a 35% markup based on selling price, what should the selling price of each suit be? $260. So that's the solution to that one. If you go down to example number 9, 8-7, this one's asking you to what is the most a gift shop buyer can pay for a set of wine glasses if he wants a 55% markup based on selling price and expects to sell the glasses for $79 retail. So again, I'm going to use that same formula, the selling price one. So we know what the selling price is. It's going to be $79. That's what they want to be able to sell them for. And they want a 55% markup. But again, this is 1 minus. So 1 minus 55 equals 0.45. So that's going to be my math. So 79 times 0.45, because remember this horizontal vertical line is representative of multiply. So that's going to come out to 79 times 0.45 equals 35.55. So to answer the question, if I can sell them for $79 each and I want a 55% markup on all of my glasses, then I need to be able to buy them cost of $35.55. And so that solves that problem. Moving on to the last one, 8-8. Again, using that same formula for markups based on selling price. Remember, it looked like this: selling price times rate, 1 minus rate, and then this is cost up here. So last question is a video outlet PlayStation 4 game is marked up 75% based on selling price. That's the key. On all your problems, look for either selling price or cost. And what is the corresponding percent markup based on cost? Okay, so this one's going to be using a different formula. I apologize. But basically, if you know the markup based on selling price, there's a formula for that. If you know the markup based on cost, there's a formula for that. And so the formula for markup based on, this one's asking you for markup based on selling price. And they want to find out what is the markup based on costs. And there's actually a formula. So basically markup based on, I'm going to do markup selling price. This is the formula that you would use for that. We're trying to find markup based on cost. So let me erase that. We're trying to find markup based on cost. And so that's going to be basically the formula for that will be percent. All right, so we're going to do markup based on cost. And the formula for that is going to be markup based on selling price divided by 100% minus markup based on selling price. All right. So if I know the markup based on selling price and I'm trying to find the markup based on cost, I would use this formula. So in this case, it's telling us that we have a markup of 75%. So that's the markup based on selling price. And it's going to be divided by 100 minus 0.75. So we know what that is, equals 0.25. All right, so I'm going to do the math. I'm going to divide 75.75 by 0.25. Sorry, 0.75 divided by 0.25 equals 30.3. So 30% is the markup based on cost. So that's the answer. Markup based on cost equals 30%. 0.30 or 30%. And then it would be if I was going to do it the other way, where I have the markup based on cost and I want to know the markup based on selling price, it would be markup based on cost divided by 1 plus markup based on cost. So that would be the difference. Okay, hopefully that helps on those problems. The last section has to do with markdowns, and I'll touch on that very briefly here in the section 8, 9, and 8.10. But the last section here is determining the amount of markdown based on markdown percents and things like that. So this is pretty simple. You're trying to find out how much percentage did I mark something down. And so this is a little bit different, but I don't use the formula for this. I just use common sense. But basically, tennis racket that originally sold for $75 was marked down to $56. Well, there's two ways you can do it. So obviously $75 and marked down to $56. Obviously there's going to be a difference there. So 75 minus 56 equals 19. So there's a $19 difference. And so I'm going to take that markdown amount and I'm going to divide it by the original amount. And that's going to tell me my markdown percent. So it's going to go out to 25.3%. So that is my markdown percentage for that particular problem. So in the markdowns and markups and markdowns, it's just a lot easier to do it using common sense. You just want to deduct the amount of the markup and down from the amount of the markdown from the original price, and then with that differences, you divide it by the original price. And that's the key. Most people make mistakes when they're doing percentages, is they're not sure which number do I divide it by. So it's always by the original price. So in this case, it was a 25.3% markdown. Also, you could use the other formula on this one that I did before, which is the, pretty sure you can use the selling price formula. I know I drew this up a minute ago to make sure, but you can use the selling price formula for this particular problem as well. So in this case, you would put the $75 here, because that is the original selling price. And then they wanted you to do the market, the new price here, 56. If I divide these two, because remember the horizontal means divide, that answer comes out to 0.74666667, whatever. But if I minus that from 1, because I'm using the 1 minus that, so 1 minus 0.74466667. If I minus that from 1, it comes out to the same thing, 25.3%. And the reason I want to show you that is the other problems in this chapter continue on with number 8, 10, and 8.11. It's just easier to use that same selling price formula. So when you're doing markdowns, just use the selling price formula. Is the easiest way to solve those. So in this case, the first problem is 1110, and it says Craftsman Village originally sold paneling for $25.50. When the stock was almost depleted, the price was marked down 60% to make room for incoming merchandise. What was the sales price for each sheet? So what we're looking for is the sales price, this corner. So we know what the cost was, $27.50. And we know that this is what we call the 1 minus. So 1 minus the rate would be 1 minus 60, which would equal 0.40. So in order to find the selling price, I would take my $27.50. I would divide it by the rate, which is 0.40. It's going to come out to $68.75. That is my new selling price. And what was the sales price per sheet paneling? It was $68.75. That's the answer to that problem.